Welcome to Source Not Found, a show about the worst versions of your favorite things. Every other week, we talk about an IP, franchise, or fandom based solely through their side projects, sequels, or spin-offs. My name is Bo Woodall, and if you come at me, I'm just going to throw Baby Moses right at your face.
And I'm Brandon June, and I'm basically Arlie Ermy in Full Metal Jacket when it comes to this game. How many cows are you carrying, Private? 5 cows? I didn't know they stacked shit that high.
Ladies and gentlemen, this week we're covering Bible Adventures because it is our New Year's revelations. We're covering the Bible, people. So
sourcing the Bible.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brandon, we're getting back into original Source Not Found territory. I know you're a religion scholar. I've never read the Bible. I was a Southern Christian boy who never really got thrown into the Bible except for the random songs we had to sing and the random Sunday school things that I was taught until I hit college.
Got it. Well, first, scholar is let's not go that far. I took a lot of English classes as an English major, and then there was a lot of overlap. And at one point, it was like, you're most of the way towards another degree here, based on just like your particular interest at the moment. Why not just go for it? But no real expertise. But I think more so than the college courses, I did have a lot of church going in my youth.
Yeah, I had a lot of church going, but I was never necessarily, I never felt welcomed because I asked a lot of questions and they never seemed to like those.
Yeah, they don't care for those.
I was more of the type that was like, if God forgives everyone, why is there a hell at all? And that becomes a problem when they're like, excuse me, young boy, you should leave.
Oh. See, at my little Baptist church, that was the first maybe leg of my journey. If you asked a question like that, they just made you feel like you were a big old sinner and you were going straight to hell, and it scared the questions out of you pretty quick. The questions came back with a vengeance. I want to say we were going to an evangelical church, maybe like this is like late middle school. I want to say maybe into the beginning of high school.
Sure.
Was the end of it. And I remember there was a visiting pastor that came, and I remember him saying something like, he's talking about devil worship across the world, and he was talking about how the swastika shows up in like Buddhism and like just throughout like certain religions, like in Indian iconography.
Yeah,
and he was like,
it's a pretty big deal, actually.
Yeah, and I remember him saying like, and that just shows you that the devil has like thoroughly infiltrated all these other religions. Like it even like the Nazis were tapping into the devil. And I remember thinking like, I know enough to know this is absolute horse shit. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, I would have to be like, so what you're telling me is the Nazis came before Hinduism?
I mean, it's like conflating two different symbols, and it's not even the idea like the Nazis seized upon a pre-existing symbol. It was like, oh no, this is proof that they're all linked to the devil because they all share this devil sign. This is a mark of the devil that's like long-standing. Yeah. So, just ahistorical, just absolute garbage.
That's the whole, correlation is not causation sort of thing. Like there is, in fact, there is neither of those things. There is neither correlation nor causation.
Yeah, I think like probably the biggest contributor to me, just like Homer Simpson backing into the bushes away from Christianity, was honestly just being like absolutely obsessed with anime and Japan at the time. Like you're hitting me in the peak Japanophile phase of my life. And so I was like also interested in like Zen. I was getting interested in like Japanese religions like Shintoism and Zen Buddhism. And then this pastor comes and he says, hey, by the way, that's linked to the devil. And I'm just like, you don't see a bad word about Japan. I so help me God, so help me your God. I will. So that's
mine was when they told me that D&D was going to send me to hell.
Ooh, that's yeah. It was Harry Potter. That was another one.
Harry Potter was also another one, but when at that age, during that time, you did not fuck with me and Harry Potter or Dungeons and Dragons, and they fucked with both. And I was like, all right, dudes, you gotta walk. I'm sorry.
You know, it's funny. It's like how many other children are just like former Christians or people that might have been turned onto the path. You just hit them in the nerd. You hit them in the nerd, and you know, I guess this is a game that tried to correct that. Like, what if we brought them into the nerd? What if we got them in their nerd,
guys?
And brought them in that way.
This is a video game that tried to bring you to the nerd, and as it is a video game, we are covering it in our normal 5-tier fashion: narrative structure, gameplay, visuals, sound, and fun factor. So let's talk a little bit about the game before we jump into narrative structure. Bible Adventures, released in 1991. That's a hell of a time to be released.
I mean, it is a hell of a time. There's a lot going on. I mean, that's the year that Super Nintendo debuted.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully, all you SNES gamers like myself, don't worry. You fully escaped the clutches of Bible Adventures on the NES.
Congratulations.
Yeah, they didn't port it to the SNES. It was just an NES game. 91 is kind of a slow year for the Nintendo Entertainment System in the US. There wasn't like a whole lot of good shit that year. I was looking through it, like, we got Batman, Return of the Joker. We got a bunch of licensed shit like Home Alone, RoboCop 2, The Hunt for Red October, Monopoly. There was The Simpsons, Bart versus the Space Mutants game, which I didn't have an NES, but I had a neighbor with that game. And I remember multiple times trying to make sense of it. I couldn't really.
I'm going to have to stop you real fast. Maybe I looked at the wrong article, but I pulled up a couple articles. There are a few key games that came out in 91.
What you got?
Street Fighter 2.
Did that get an NES port?
No, I'm talking about games in general.
Oh, okay. So we looked at this a different way. I'm excited to hear your list because I didn't remind myself of the 91 games. So I was only looking at games on the NES to keep it fair.
Oh,
like
no,
Bible
no.
Adventures, what are you going up against? Like, we're not there at the game store. I was about to say we're there at the game store, but no. This game by Wisdom Tree, the Christian video game developer, it is not a licensed Nintendo game. It did not get the Nintendo seal of approval. They had to sell it through Christian booksellers.
It was one of the first to do so, right?
Yeah. And they continued to do this. They continued to just not get their games licensed and just sell them throughout other retailers. And they used a voltage spike kind of mechanism to kind of bypass the lockout chip on the system.
Yeah.
So that it would work.
Did you see how many copies this reportedly sold in Christian bookstores at the time?
What do we got?
350,000 copies. Reportedly.
How many of those were requested by the children who received them?
None. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. So 350,000 copies of this game were reportedly sold in Christian bookstores across the country when this came out. Now, 1991, other games that were released in 91. Street Fighter 2 won Game of the Year that year. Possibly one of the greatest fighting games of all time.
It's up there. I mean, a lot of people, if you go on Street Fighter, they'd probably go Third Strike, but the original, right? The OG, for sure.
Street Fighter,
truly important.
The Street Fighter 2 is top notch. Sonic the Hedgehog came out in 91. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time came out in 1991. And my personal favorite, and the reason this game lost points for me, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past came out in 1991.
It was just a great year to be in the arcades, to be on your Master System, your Genesis, your Super Nintendo. Not so great on the NES. I mean, it's pretty late, right? We're at the end of the life cycle. There's just not a lot left in this thing. And so it was a lot of shit like I found that I was listing, and shit like this that was too shitty to even be included in the actual games.
This was a rough get.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: these scores are going to be low. This is a game. So we were talking about our religious experience, our backgrounds. We were talking about the 350,000, probably largely children, who received this game. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Do you genuinely believe a single adult would buy this game for themselves?
You know?
Yeah, probably.
There's got to be a few. There's a few.
Yeah, I guess.
But, Yeah. I mean, we're in an era where like gaming, like adult gaming was not what it is now, right?
Right.
They were still largely seen as toys and marketed towards children. This game, so we talked about asking questions. This game, I believe, would cause a child to ask questions, independent of any sort of discrepancies in scripture.
This game caused me as an adult who is relatively comfortable in his own non-religious nature to ask questions.
This game is the Epicurean argument. For those not familiar, it's the first premise. You know, if we have an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient deity, then evil should not exist. The second premise being, of course, that evil does exist. Therefore, an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient God does not exist. So we could just modify that slightly. If an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omniscient God exists, then Bible Adventures should not. Bible Adventures does exist. Therefore there is no God.
There is no God. Yeah.
There is no God to allow this into the world. True dog shit. You know, we're talking about, I mean, just stacked up against NES games in 91. If you were lucky enough to be on another platform in 91, you had even better options. This game also was ported in 1995.
Are you fucking kidding me?
To the Genesis, the Sega Genesis. 95, we have the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation coming out this year.
I was going to say, dude, do they just like to throw this game at the very end cycle of systems?
I just have to imagine, like, you know, anyone that has a Genesis at that point is probably just already just, what I want to say, Frankenstein to shit. You know, you got the, like the CD, Sega CD on the side, you got the 32X up top. It's just like this precarious assortment of aging electronic devices, and then just this fucking misshapen, unlicensed Genesis that uses a voltage spike, and you just like cram that shit in there and mainline
it's
your
the Sega
Noah's
Genesis
Ark.
of Theseus at that point.
We're pivoting to a philosophy pod.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're getting really deep into it, gang. I'm sorry.
At what point, with so many add-ons to your Sega Genesis, does it cease to be the original?
Cease to be the original Genesis? Yeah.
Yeah. So this developer, Wisdom Tree, they continued to do this. They continued to make these Christian games. They did a Wolfenstein 3D. They used the Wolfenstein 3D engine to do like it's again a Noah's Ark themed game where you're basically like in first person shooter style flinging like sleep inducing fruit at the animals, the upset animals on the ark to get them to, I guess, go to sleep.
For 40,
haven't played it
for 40 days. That's a real strong fruit.
If it's not actually that long, it's going to feel that long. So haven't played that yet, and maybe next year. There was a PC port released on Steam in 2015, apparently.
Christ alive.
Easily accessible for all of you just hankering to have more. If this game didn't quite satiate you.
So let's pivot into some narrative structure of these games. Let's, like we've been doing, let's start with our scores first.
All right. Narrative structure, I give it a 4.
I gave it a 7.
Oh, damn. All right.
So please let me explain myself.
Yeah.
There is no story in these games, but the story that is in the games is given to you immediately and slowly throughout, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are given a better clue to what you're doing in these games than we got in either Freddy or Jason. Like all 3 of these little mini games that we got, which I don't know if we've mentioned yet. There are 3 mini games. You've got Noah's Ark, Baby Moses, and David versus Goliath. Those are the 3 games that are in the Bible Adventures package.
3 in 1. What 3 turds in the bowl.
3 turds in the bowl.
The price of 1.
What a steal. But all 3 of those games start with a bunch of lore, and the lore is only continued. The only thing these games do is give you narrative.
Right. Every time you get your little tablet health pickup, you are given another piece of scripture to enjoy.
You're given either scripture or a hint as to how to play the game. The only positive thing I can say about these games is that the narrative is clear.
I would agree with that.
And that sucks.
It does. It sets you up on each task. You get a little prologue to what you're doing, who you are and why. And then each game culminates with a short little cutscene of sorts. Your baby Moses floating down the river.
Sure.
Your ark rising up on the floodwaters. And I've talked before. I'm usually pretty forgiving when it comes to narratives, because usually my running line is it enough to get me invested in the task at hand? And if so, with a game like this, if it does that, already points on the board.
Well, so quick question.
Yeah.
I judge this based on Brandon rules.
Yeah.
That we have established since, I believe, episode 3 or 4. It passed in giving narrative. And that's the only reason it got a 7.
Yeah, right. We're doing teacher rules, right?
I gave it Brandon teacher rules.
Yeah, and for me, it fails. Now, it does get me set up on the task, but here's the thing. There's an additional criteria I've decided to put on this game, because it so poorly functions as a game and so misses the mark on any of the things it sets out to do, which who knows how much intention there was on the part of the developers to really make any sort of enjoyable experience in terms of a game.
Oh, we'll be talking
this
about
is a
that
vehicle
in just
for
a second.
Yeah. To me, this is a vehicle for religion, for Christianity. And on that, narratively, it completely fails. It's not a total loss, but there are so many missed opportunities to do something interesting. Even we talked about just now, the scriptures you receive, they are rarely linked to what you're actually doing.
Oh, they're
sort of
never linked to
freestanding.
what you're doing. No, it's fucking
Yeah, I guess
horrible.
I'm thinking they're just sort of like a grab bag mix of and God is great and whatever, right? Just pulled from where.
My favorite is that I think it's in the David versus Goliath section, where one of the ones you grab is the whole, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil because blah, 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 blah. That has nothing to do with David versus Goliath.
And that's the thing. These are all well-known tales from the Bible. These are going to be some of the first things that show up in your Sunday school children's Bible, right?
Right.
And the fact that I am playing as Moses' mother, transporting him, I am playing as Noah, collecting these animals, and you didn't think to actually pull from those biblical stories and maybe tell the story as I go. It's right there. It would be so easy to do. Like, have a clear narrative progression from scripture that aligns with what I'm doing and tells the story, tells the actual story.
I just want to jump in real fast. Apparently, you're not playing as Moses' mom.
Who are you playing as?
His sister Miriam.
Oh, is that? Oh man, I'm not. Is that who takes him to the river? I totally forgot. This is why. Don't call me a scholar.
No, this is all according to Wikipedia, and it's all blue linked. I double checked all of this shit before we jumped on and started recording. Apparently, the person you're playing as is not his mom; it's his sister, which makes it less invested.
Huh. Okay. Well. Well. Sure.
Yeah. Isn't this fun? Narrative structure.
Yeah, so just that humongous missed opportunity. And I don't think everything's just so fucking lazy, man. You know?
No, I agree.
So fucking lazy.
That's why I gave it the lowest version of a passing grade. I just, I would love to score this game lower narratively, but the fact of the matter is, it does tell the stories it needs to tell without me reading the Bible.
Yeah, I guess I just keep looking at it as, I make the problem sometimes of looking at something and thinking about what it could be and focusing too much on that as opposed to just what it is and judging it on those merits. But I just keep looking at it as, okay, obviously you know these stories if you are a young Christian child, you've been told them. And it's assuming a lot on the part of you to know these. And I think these stories are well known enough that most people would probably be able to tell you something about each one.
Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Maybe this is narrative structure, maybe this is gameplay. I was less familiar with David hunting down sheep.
Yeah, we are really emphasizing his background as a shepherd, are we not?
Yeah,
At the expense of
I,
all
I
else.
was I was more familiar with him taking down a big gross man, and less familiar with him herding sheep.
Mm. I was looking for that cutscene when he gets to hop over the wall and get a little Bathsheba. Now that's an unlicensed Nintendo game.
I would play that game.
Because that's not that's not meeting the ethical standards. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Noah's Ark had a clear through line. I feel like you would know that story. You could understand that story. It's pretty clear cut just based on what's in the game. But the other two, less so. Like, what are the stakes? Who are we fighting? Why are we fighting them? Or who are we trying to save baby Moses from, and why? There's just not as much there.
Do you not think the introductory text gives you what you need to know?
Again, I think it gives me what I need to know if it were going to take that text and expand it into a functioning sort of narrative through line as a game and drop more narrative threads along the way. You know what I mean? In terms of the environments and the characters and some additional interactions. It's a fine setup, but for what this game should be tasked to be doing above all else, which is to communicate these biblical stories and to maybe get a child interested in the stories, I think it fails.
Is that what it's trying to do? I guess. Because, for me, I feel like each individual game is trying to tell an individual story. And each of those, I don't, dear God, I don't want to argue this point. I'd really like to just get into gameplay. But I just want to clarify one thing. I feel like I got more narratively from each individual story, and there are 3 of them, than I did from all of the Friday the 13th game. And we are looking at this as an NES game, as opposed to anything further than that. I would say it even has more narrative merit than the Nightmare on Elm Street game. Really.
I guess never underestimate the power of an interesting event or happening within the gameplay to bump up that narrative score if it's sufficiently imbued with narrative. And I guess the events in this game, there aren't any. It's what you get in the very first...
There are no events at all.
What you get in the first 10 seconds of each game is the entirety of the gameplay experience, except for, I guess, David and Goliath, because in the final level of that, you finally get your sling, and you finally get this clusterfuck of enemies, and you have some battling to do. But aside from that, there are no happenings. It's just you continue to do what you were doing at the very outset. And the fact that there are no interesting characters or environments, every environment is just copy pasted. If it even changes at all. Sometimes it's like a color palette swap.
In Noah's Ark, it does not change.
Yeah, right. You go into nighttime mode. Yeah, so that in an NES era game, that is part of the narrative experience. Are you taking me to new interesting places? Are you showing me new interesting things? Are you progressing in that way? And the fact that it doesn't progress, the fact that it doesn't communicate these stories, even though it's given multiple opportunities to do so, easily through these health pickups. And the fact that it's, I don't know what to assume on the part of the developers, but the fact that it's not really much of a game, well then, are you a vehicle for storytelling? And the fact that it doesn't do that either, the one thing it potentially could do very well, especially given the rich source material, fuck off for, I'm sorry, you made a good argument, but you didn't convince me.
You did convince me to drop it to a 6.
Okay. Well, how about a 666? I'm a little devil on your shoulder, just bringing you down with me. Down here. It's nice and hot, nice and toasty.
So gameplay. So I have one very important thing to say about gameplay, and this is coming from someone whose first system was the NES. This was just a shitty version of Mario 2. It was pick up and throw and jump. You had 2 buttons. One was pick up and throw, and one was jump.
Yeah.
It was just a shitty copy and paste version of that because they did nothing to make it special.
They did nothing to make it functional.
And they did nothing to make it functional. So, yeah. Oh God, we're supposed to do our scores first.
Well, you go for it.
I gave it a 3.
All right. I guess I kind of broke this up into 3 parts. I'm realizing.
Uh oh, I'm very worried now. Is this gonna be like? Is this gonna be like last section? And we're gonna just go at each other for 10 minutes?
I gave Noah's Ark a 4. I gave Baby Moses a 1. I gave David and Goliath a 2. So we're at what, like 7 out of 30?
It comes down to a 2.8 or 2.7, so a 3.
Like a 2.3. Let's just give it a 2. Fuck it. Because I don't know, should we just like take this one by one? The thing is, you talk about the mechanics and general gameplay of one, you're kind of talking about all of them because they share mechanics, even though some
across
of the games
the board
don't really. Yeah. Noah's Ark is, to me, the best, most functional experience in the 3.
It was the most functional. It was the least fun for me, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, not to spoil it, but I had the most fun with this one as well. You are Noah, collecting animals for the ark. You are in a stretch of forest. There is a cave with 2 adjacent patches of forest on either side, kind of bookending the level. It's the only level you get until later on, I think at the very end.
It turns to night. Yeah.
At the very end, it turns to night and you get a lantern. And that was the opportunity for some cool mechanics too. Like, oh, maybe when I jumped into that level, like, are we going to get interesting here now? Like, am I going to have like animals that are maybe attracted to or repulsed by the light? No, it's just, yeah. No. But you, like you mentioned, 2 buttons, which NES controller, right? NES era. That's all you have to work with. So you can jump and you can pick up. And then if you hold the pick up button, which is also to throw, you also can run into a little Noah trot. And you just have to corral, you have to chase down and pick up all of these various animals, hop up the platforms, and put them inside the ark. Repeat ad nauseum.
Yeah, and only 1 animal, maybe 2 animals per section actually takes thought. Like with the pigs, you have to bring them the hay trough, and they'll eat out of it, and you can pick them up while they eat out of it.
No kidding.
Yeah, what did you do?
I just threw shit at them until they got knocked out cold and then picked up their...
Oh, so you just beat the shit out of things until they...
I beat the shit out of everything. I was looking for some action, man.
Yeah, so like I figured out the banana was good for the monkey and the hay was good for the pig.
Yeah.
And
the cows they let you... Come on, get me, big boy.
Did you ever figure out the eagles? The eagles fucked me up.
The eagles, it took me a while. In fact, I played this, so I streamed this game. The first portion, I did a Christmas stream this year. It was day after Christmas for me, but Christmas for y'all on the other side of the world. And I played this, and that was the point where I didn't know what to do with the eagles because I was trying to chase down the eagles that swoop down, and they'll like swoop down at Noah. And then if you don't get out of their way, they will pick you up and then like carry you across the screen and drop you into another random location. And it's such a pain in the ass. And I kept trying to like get them, and I would throw things at those eagles and knock them out. And they would just die. They would drop off the screen and disappear, which other animals don't do. When you knock out other animals, they just fall asleep.
Just the snakes.
Yeah, that's true. You pick them up and you can take them into the ark. I didn't realize there were other eagles like up in the trees that you needed to track down, which they'll hop from tree to tree, and they're kind of tricky. You have to like jump from branch to branch and like jump on the same branch as them real quick and pick them up before they fly away. So those were kind of tricky. There are a couple animals. I mean, there are like some of the predators, like your panthers and lions and stuff. And even the male, like the oxen, they'll like ram you. Yeah. But usually you can just like find something like hay bales. I went through any number of like ideas about what those things were, because they just sort of, the first time you encounter them, it's just like this sort of yellowish kind of, textured bundle of things.
Yeah, it's not a good graphic.
I was like, is that a basket? And then I saw one on a tree branch, like, oh, it's a bird's nest. And then it wasn't until late game when you actually are tasked with collecting food for Noah's family, and you have to track down like bananas and grapes and stuff thrown by the monkeys, and then some like wheat and hay.
You realize that it's actually a bundle of hay.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, The thing about this is it's just that same experience. You're given like a set of animals on this level. You collect them. You put them in the ark. You go to the next level. You're in the same section of forest, same cave, same ark. You're collecting different animals. The animals change. Some of them do take a little bit of thought. You get the nighttime rolling in, and that's kind of a cool visual effect, I guess, very slightly. It's at least something different. At this point, it's kind of like Stockholm Syndrome. Like, oh my God, I'm just so like, oh, you showed me something new. You did something slightly different. Oh, I'm overjoyed. It feels good. It feels better than it is. I guess having the additional stressor of like, you got to hold on to Noah's lantern and pick up the animals. And if you lose the lantern, you're in the complete darkness. And there are like occasional like strikes of lightning that would illuminate your surroundings, and you can maybe find your lantern or track down the animals that way. It was slightly interesting. The other thing you can do is you can stack multiple animals at a time. You can like pick up several cows. I think my record was 5 cows at once, just like teeter-tottering over your head.
6
and
for
then
me.
Noah, man, you got to 6. Hell yeah. Noah, man, fucking swole. Like, because you can like climb the trees and like jump up the platforms to the ark with all these cattle just stacked on top of your head. It's pretty, I mean, talk about the power of the Lord. So the thing is, the reason this is the most enjoyable experience for me.
I was going to say, please tell me you're giving us a reason why this is so much more enjoyable, because it's
it's mindless.
It's nothing for me.
It is a nothing. It's mindless, but it's not actively infuriating. So it gets points there. And I guess what this game sets out to do, its mechanic, which is collect animals and put them in the ark, it achieves that way more so than the next 2 games, which what you're tasked to do, the mechanics it wants you to perform are so poorly executed. Gets nowhere close to being a functional like side-scrolling platformer or doing combat in any reasonable way. This one, when I just did sort of like sink into that warm bath of just, well, it's a tepid bath. When I did that and just took the game for what it was, a just very boring, very unchallenging experience other than those eagles. It kind of, I guess I never really got into like these like farming sim kind of games like Harvest Moon and like Stardew Valley. It's not a game that I've ever really, had any interest in doing, but I know people get something out of that. And I wondered for a second, like, is this kind of, to a much lesser degree, but is it kind of what they get out of that, where I have a checklist of to-dos, tasks, right? Harvest Moon to me looks a lot like, I know it's much more than this, but tend to your animals, do your farming, keep up your house or whatever. And like, it had a sort of hint of that at times where like, okay, I got to like make sure I have enough food for the entirety of my voyage on this ark. So let me get my wheat, let me get my grapes, let me get some edible cows as opposed to the mating cows I got in the first level. And because it didn't want me to do too much, it wanted me to just collect. And the primary mechanic of this game is picking up and stacking things on yourself and then taking them to a different location. Yeah, it did that better than the next 2 games. And it was, I don't know that I had any fun, but it was more fun than the others.
All right. Well, that's fair. I think you gave it way more than it needed. Like,
I mean,
it was nothing to me. I mean, none of these games really were, but I don't know. I love Stardew Valley. I love Harvest Moon. I love a good farming sim. This to me was just, there was a, like, you were fulfilling something and not getting anything for it. Not to mention the fact that the controls are garbage. The visuals were frustrating. The music was bad. We'll get into that soon. And it was tedious.
Oh, it's tedious. Yeah.
Noah's Ark to me was a chore, where the other 2 games were games. They weren't.
Okay.
They were not good games at all. But this was, you're giving me homework, and I don't like it.
But again, a 4, it's a failure. Like, you're not passing the class.
Well, you gave it a 2 for gameplay, or you gave all of them a 2 for gameplay total.
That's what I mean. And I guess just, I didn't want to, like, when I broke it down into 3, I was thinking like, this game isn't a 0. There is something. something functional here. So yeah, this is sort of like buoying up the other two for me.
So the other two for me, I'm gonna cover them both at once because they're the same fucking game.
Okay. Okay.
Up until the David and Goliath last level, they're the same game, except in Baby Moses, you have to carry Baby Moses. It's a shitty platformer that stun locks you at every fucking turn.
Yeah.
And at times, it makes it so you literally cannot get out of being stun locked.
Yes.
And then you're thrown into the Nile River and you're fucking game over and you have to start the level over again.
Truly enraging. So, I mean, maybe just to focus on, they are the same game. Like I said, the same mechanic. It's pick something up, and in Noah's Ark, you're transporting it to the Ark. And these two, you're just transporting it to the right of the screen. You're picking up sheep as David and getting them to the right.
You're going from the left of the screen to the right of the screen. In Baby Moses, you're carrying Baby Moses with you. If you get hit, you drop Baby Moses. If you get hit again, you're stun locked, and they'll knock you a certain distance away. However, what you don't know is that the Egyptians will grab Baby Moses and throw him into the river, and then you have to go back to the beginning of the level to grab Baby Moses again and take him across. It is infuriating.
It is.
The fact that there are times where you are trapped between 3 tarantulas and 2 Egyptians, and they're all in the same in-game 10 feet of space with you, and they're just stun locking you back and forth, and the Egyptian picks up Baby Moses, throws him in the river, and then they stun lock you some more until your health is gone, and then you have to start the whole level over again. I spent so much time on these games that I did not need to.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that you can just throw Baby Moses past everything and then pick him up and go to the exit?
I guess I knew I could throw him. I threw him a good bit. Never effectively, though.
Yeah, get to the farthest cloud you can get to and just throw Baby Moses from the cloud and then jump down, grab him, and go to the exit.
That's a pretty good strategy. Okay, I guess I need to get back in there and try that one out.
Don't do that to yourself. Do not do that to yourself.
It's what you just described. It's the like going up and down. It was always the worst on like any portion of the level that had like steps going up, because you'd have like the spiders coming down, descending. You'd have Egyptian guards coming up like from the left. And then like
the little Egyptian boys jumping up and throwing a brick at your face.
Yes, you just be like sort of surrounded by them all. They do this like pincer move, and then you just get batted back and forth between them until either Moses falls down in the river, or more likely, at least for me, I fall down into the water, which is an immediate kill. Yeah. Miriam can't swim.
There's no you pop back up at the ledge next to you blinking like it would in a normal Nintendo game, and you just lose like half a life or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what would be expected. No, it is a full-on level over for you. Start back at the beginning. No, you know what? 3 is generous. 3 is too generous. We're going with a 2 because the more I talk about it, the more angry I am getting. I was so fucking mad at being stun locked in the Baby Moses game. The David and Goliath game didn't happen as much until the end level.
Yeah, the end level is basically this entire game condensed into like one section, right?
And
that's how this game felt.
That's fine. One level being super hard is fine. But Baby Moses, all of them were just stun lock after stun lock. And I actually sat down and played I think it was the second or third level, where you start out with 2 tarantulas right underneath you. And they fiddle. Yeah. They don't follow the same algorithm.
They don't.
It is randomized.
Yeah.
They will straight, like, I thought maybe there was a chance where it was an algorithm and they would both just go to the side and leap off the screen. No, they knock my ass off the screen half the time. I would wait for them to leave and they wouldn't leave. I was so mad at this fucking game.
I think we're talking about the same level, because in one of my 57 attempts to get through that one, At some point I did realize, like, oh, if I just like hang out here on this ledge that I start off on, this platform,
the two spiders will leave.
Fuck off. And they do, like, I don't know, 60% of the time. But then every once in a while they like jump backwards and they'll like jump up and hit you and knock you off.
And knock you right into the fucking Nile.
This is a section. So you start off on a little platform. Moses is down below you. He's as soon as you start, the spiders are encroaching on him. So you either have the option to wait, like we tried to do, and which was sometimes successful, if the spiders decided to act that way. Or as quickly as possible, pick him up. He's right at the edge. You have to immediately jump onto another section where there is a disappearing slate, a disappearing bit of floor.
Yep.
That it comes towards you and then moves away, and you have to jump over it. If you're standing over top of this chasm, you would fall down to your death, except it's not a pit because everything else in the fucking game can just stand on top of it.
Yep,
and
except for you.
Including Moses. Yeah, except you.
And the tarantulas and the Egyptian soldiers.
Yes, you can pick up Moses while he's resting on this black slate, and he'll be fine. And as soon as you pick him up over your head, you're fucking dead. Because they just didn't give a shit. No one gave a shit.
Fuck this game.
It's just a lot of that, and it's just so, like I said, it's just so frustrating, unenjoyable. It's like 6 or 7 levels at the most, this game, and it just takes
6
hours because the only way I got through it was by the sheer, I don't know, is this an argument for the existence of God? It felt like a moment, just a miraculous moment where I played it like I would play like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. Pick him up, run full blast, and just jump wildly. Just keep holding right and hope that you're timing it randomly to just jump over everything.
Oh, you just full send it. You just full send the whole thing.
All the way to the finish. And I did that a number of times until finally just, I got lucky.
The amount of times that I just straight up yeeted baby Moses, hoping that he would get near the end and I could join him in the future. Okay.
Yeah, any game that just encourages you to just wildly get through it as quickly as possible.
Any game that encourages you to pray you can make it to the end by running fast, I guess it's a Christian game.
Yeah. Shitty game. I guess more variation within its levels than Noah's Ark, but the fact that they all equally suck, fuck off. Worst game.
Yeah. And David versus Goliath is basically the same fucking thing, except you find it's a little bit of Noah's Ark and a little bit of Baby Moses.
Like a marriage of the two.
There's nothing special there. We don't have to talk about it. We can move on to visuals.
To just encapsulate real quick, you are David the shepherd for 90% of the game. And it's sort of a variation on, it does, like you said, it is a marriage of the two. You are carrying your sheep, but the destination is all the way to the right of the screen. So it feels like you're sort of progressing like you would in the Baby Moses game, except it is sort of this self-contained level. It really is more Noah's Ark than it is Baby Moses. There is no real progression. It's the illusion of progression because the footholds up, the platform's up to the upper level that you need to get to carry the sheep and be at a height high enough to reach the end goal. It feels like a traditional level in that sense, but you kind of have free roam of the whole area. I will say, just to talk about the final level, because that's where it distinguishes itself. Fuck me.
The falling rocks?
The thing is, this has all the frustration of Baby Moses, but it's multiplied like tenfold because you cannot just run wildly to the finish. You are ascending vertically. You are, for the first time in this game, outfitted with an actual weapon. You have your sling, David's sling. So you are required to combat enemies. And at first, I was thinking, oh man, finally, some action, some combat, and I was overjoyed. But fuck me, the arc on that sling, the arc on the rock, it goes up so high, it descends at such a far-off distance that you have to perfectly situate yourself at this perfect distance from an enemy to have any hope of getting it correctly. And the fact is, so many of the enemies are, because you're ascending for most of the level, they're above you or below you. You don't have a crouch. You cannot at all.
Yeah, it's all a jump.
You cannot adjust the arc of your rock. Some of the enemies are invulnerable. They're on platforms that you need to ascend to, and you have to stand there and then time it to the next platform. But you've got falling rocks, these boulders that talk about the stun lock. they clusterfuck like all the spiders and Egyptian guards combined. It's just chaos. And you've got this other like little, I don't even know what kind of critter it was. I looked at it
Scorpion.
for hours on end. Okay, that's right.
Scorpion.
I forgot. Fuck it. Who cares? And you got that like coming towards you. And then you got like the guards, the enemies, the Philistines or whatever. And like they got their spears and shit. And then if you kill one, it's gone. But because it's NES, if you like jump and then jump back, it respawns.
It's back,
and you just have to keep going up. It's fucking chaos. It's so annoying. I just scum the hell out of it. It was still a slog. And then you get all the way up there and there's this shield bearer enemy. And that's kind of tough because he's got his shield and you got to like, that's when the arc of the rock really was an issue for me. Because to like situate yourself in a place where you have this limited ground anyway, you're like at the top of a mountain and he's rushing at you and you can't jump back because there's not enough, like there's no space, there's no way to like backtrack. And then he knocks you down and you fall all the way back down through the level and have to start the ascent again. And you do all that and then just, I think another random just good luck. He fell off the mountain, I think. I don't think it was a whole lot of doing on my part.
Yeah, you can knock him off the mountain with a couple of well-placed slingshots.
I don't even remember what I did. Fuck it. My brain was getting smoother by the second with this one. Then you fight Goliath, and it literally just a one-hit KO if you hit him in the head.
Yeah, you just aim for his forehead, and he's fucking dead.
Yeah, you throw a couple at his feet, and he's like, am I doing damage? Do I have to, like, knock him? Oh, but I know the story. I kind of wonder, I knew the story. If you don't, is it, like, more difficult to figure out? But pretty soon, like, you just jump up, one shot in the head, he's dead, the game just is over. And with all these games, they just, like...
End.
They do have, like, the slight cutscene on some of them, but, like, they just boot you back to the main menu. There's no, like, thank you for playing, congratulations, credits, nothing. It's just back to the menu. Here's some more, because it was so good the first time.
Yeah.
Have another go. Fuck that. It truly frustrated me. These last two games more so than Noah's Ark did. So they were the worst experience in a just collection of just terrible experiences. And it doesn't help that, God damn it, you always just read about these biblical characters getting like anointed in oil and some shit. It just, we haven't talked about how fucking slippery all of these characters are. They're all just fucking covered in oil, slipping around like they're on ice. And goddamn if David wasn't the worst one to have that happen to, because these little platforms you're going up and just slipping and sliding, fucking Paul Simon all the way up to the top. God damn it. Fuck, just get out of here. How do we feel about the sound?
I'm sorry. It's just we're going toward visuals now, but
okay, fine. Those also suck.
Just the rage coming off of you is Mortal Kombat Mythology's level. Oh fuck. Oh, visuals. What was your score?
I didn't know that fucking hay bale was... I thought that was a basket. I thought it was a nest. What the fuck are these things? 3 out of 10. What is anything? I don't know, man. I guess it's passable. Like,
I gave it a 5 because it was just passable.
Yeah, I say passable. It doesn't pass. It doesn't do anything interesting. It recycles the same environments. It color swaps them, and it's not like the stock and like the main level is any good to begin with. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm in a forest. I guess it tracks. There's an arc. That's a river. I don't know. I think.
Okay, the reason I gave it a 5 was because all of the enemies and all of the animals were noticeably different, including the birds. Like, they could have made the bluebirds and the blackbirds the same. Instead, they made them different sizes and different shapes.
I guess you're right.
But also the tarantulas with the googly eyes made me strangely happy even when they fucked my life.
If I could have stepped outside of my rage, I think I would have also enjoyed David's like death animation. He gets the big old like googly cartoon eyes.
He does.
And just sort of, like,
yeah.
Flails off screen.
Well, they all do. If they all really die hard, if they die by an enemy, they all get the big googly eyes and the side to side shoulder shake, and they fall straight through the screen like a Mario would.
Yeah. Okay.
I just it doesn't pass. It's just right on the verge of passing and failing for me.
You got me rethinking it a little bit. Okay. I knew what I think all the animals were without having to be told. Maybe I didn't know what the panther was supposed to be at first.
I didn't know the difference between the cows and the oxen because guess what? There's no fucking difference in cow and oxen. There is no male cow. Thanks, Frederick.
Right.
Appreciate your research.
Right. Okay. With a few exceptions, but most of the animals like, oh, I know that's a toucan, or I know that's a pig. Okay. Yeah. David looked like David should look.
What, a tan man in white underpants?
When it was, I don't know. He had the sling. Fuck it. Noah,
not to the last level,
just,
Brandon.
Okay, I don't even know. Yeah, what am I trying to say? Maybe 3 is too harsh, but also this game is from 1991. Like when we talked about other NES games, right? We had things to say about like the vivid colors and
they made
Ninja
Turtles, and we could barely recognize David.
Or I can't tell if that's a nest or a hay bale. I don't know how much of that is user error. This is a late game. It is still an NES game, but like there's no. We talked about like the nice scrolling effects on like Friday the 13th, and like there's just nothing here. It is the most basic ass like
the background.
Design.
The backgrounds are absolute dog shit. The level design is absolute dog shit. There's no question there. I put that toward my 2 in gameplay.
All right.
Visual wise, yes, the color swap on a couple of things that led toward its failure. But something that it did that Friday the 13th didn't do, I could recognize all of the enemies or your antagonists or tasks that you needed to complete outside of the cows v oxen, because fuck off.
I don't know. 4?
I mean,
I'll do a 4. I'll give it a 4.
Who knows any? Who cares?
Who's counting?
I'm counting, actually.
You are. This is your job.
This is my job to count.
You're the numbers guy. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Jesus, dude, there's so many different notations on this sheet. Sound.
0.
You really?
Sound.
You gave it a straight 0?
I've never given a 0 to anything. I'd give it a negative. Can I give it a negative?
No. We decided.
0.
Remember we discussed this. We can't. I
gave
it
a.
I gave it a 1.
All right. A 0 to me. It would have been better if the whole game were fucking silent, because I'm not going to call this music. This is not music. This is
torture. It's fucking against the Geneva Conventions. It's horrible. That the only reason I gave it a 1 is because there was actually sound.
But yeah, I guess my thing is like it's so grating. I mean, I thought the Friday the 13th, that little loop, was going to be the worst of it.
No, this
but
is
at least
this
that
is the worst
melody.
This is the worst music I've heard in a video game ever, I think.
It's like someone just fucking, doing little like, how do I describe this in like auditorily? It's like picking 2 keys on the keyboard and just kind of like, you know what I mean, flicking at them, the both of them back and forth.
Gang, this is Bo speaking to you from your ear holes. We normally would play the sound from the video game.
Oh, we're doing it. Let's play it.
No, don't. I don't.
It is. Sit back, everyone. Relax. Make sure you're on a really good sound system. Here we go. Look, if we had to deal with it, you gotta get a taste.
I am so sorry.
This is what you signed up for.
I really thought we weren't going to do that to you, but I guess we are. But now you understand our scores.
Okay, so there's that. There's what they will try and tell you is music, and it's the same on every fucking game.
Every fucking game, every level.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change.
The only
It's that
sound, the
shit.
only difference in sound you get is when you pick up a health stone that gives you some Bible verses, and that is just a rapid monkey typewriter
Yeah.
beat boops.
Oh, and then there's the title screen, which is Bach, right?
Yeah, it's Bach.
Which actually doesn't sound that bad. Oh, but it's not enough. The rest of the game is such a negative that, like, even if that, chiptune version of this music is somewhat enjoyable, that brings it up to 0 for me. Also, like, there's just no attempt to make the animals sound like anything. You never know, like, are they growling or mooing, or they just make these sort of nondescript, like, it's worse than the the original, like, Pokemon on the Game Boy, where they'll have these, like, weird, shrill, like,
like
groans. It's like,
and that
is
was
that
a
an animal? Is that a
Bulbasaur.
Pokemon sound? Yeah, whatever. It's like that, but just worse than the worst sounding Pokemon.
The sound is bad, gang. Is what we're saying. It's bad.
Again, it would be better if it just was a silent game.
Okay, so we're doing something a little bit different this time for fun factor.
Yeah, I guess I kind of did it with my gameplay, right?
Brandon has asked, we are going to give fun factor for each of the 3 games, and then we're dividing our scores by 3. So, Math Boy, hello, is going to do a little bit of work here. So, we're going to start with Noah's Ark. Brandon, what was your fun factor on that one?
3.5. I guess everything's about a 4 for Noah for me.
You had to go to a
Yeah.
0.5? You asshole.
It's okay. I'll even it out. Just wait.
I gave it a 1.
Ooh. All right.
I was so bored, man. Just collecting shit and bringing it to stuff, and there's no reward or, like, it was all of Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing, or Stardew Valley with none of the reward system, and I hated that.
Yeah, again, I guess I covered it before. Like, it didn't actively enrage me to the degree the other 2 games did. It was mindless, sort of. I guess a couple moments. I don't know what to call it. Do we have a word for this in English? I don't know. It's sort of like, I don't want to say I was pleased. I wasn't pleasantly surprised. I wasn't even that surprised. I don't know. Any word I think of is too much. It's giving it too much credit, but I did not expect to be able to be carrying all this cattle on my head and still be able to, like, climb a tree or jump around.
Oh, so you were surprised by the silliness of it? It
was kind of silly, and it was like, look, we're giving you a lot to do here, but it's not like trying. Like, sure, just, like, stack the cows up as high as you want to go and then just hop around. And, that's kind of fun for a second.
I think this is where you and I deviate a little bit in our video game taste. I would rather be infuriated than bored.
Ooh.
And Noah's Ark bored me immensely.
Okay. I think generally, if it were a functioning game, yes, I agree. But it would be a different kind of infuriation. But I guess this game was homework. I mean, it was homework, right? We assigned it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We didn't want to play this. We did it for all of you. Enjoy. And I guess at the point where I was going through these games, at every point, I would rather have the sort of easygoing, mindless, boring experience of homework as opposed to the homework that, like, causes me to really struggle and take time to perfect a skill to finish. I just want to get the homework done. I just want to turn it in. So yeah,
I get it.
That's what I got. And
all right.
Again, I don't judge. I didn't judge this as a game. It's I judge this as a game as little as possible because fuck it. It doesn't deserve to be called such. For most of the time.
It rarely doesn't.
Okay.
So, Baby Moses.
0.5. There we go. And I evened it up for you there. 0.5. Emphasis on the 0. Why the 0.5? There was a moment there where just by accidentally fumbling with buttons, I realized I could pick up Baby Moses and I could still pick up the guards and the spiders because it's the same fucking mechanic from the other games. So I had like this moment where I was just like running along carrying Baby Moses and spiders and Egyptians, and that was kind of funny. I got a chuckle out of that. That was fun.
I gave it a 4.
Okay. You thought that was a lot funnier than I did, I guess.
That, and despite all of the horrible stun locking that I dreamt about,
mm-hmm.
at least I thought there was some clever platforming. Like the bouncy areas that shot you up in the air pretty good. Like,
yeah, I jumped past most of those. Yeah.
There were areas of that game where I actually thought were, save me, please, a little fun for what we were covering.
Okay.
It failed on all things, but there were some instances of genuine fun. David and Goliath.
One. I don't know. Like, again, I guess it had the Noah's Ark thing going there for a second. So like, and it wasn't until the final level. It wasn't the continued rage. It was just rage condensed into one section. So it was a little more fun. And I guess for the brief 10 seconds before I realized how awful it was to use the sling, to be equipped with some sort of form of attack was, oh my God, we have something going here now, finally. I had fun at first. There was the promise of fun for a moment, and better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, I guess. You know, maybe better to have had a moment of fleeting or potential fun and have it snatched away than to just have other games that don't give you it at all. I don't know. Anyway, 1.
Well, I gave it a 2.
Yeah.
Because, well, I wasn't super impressed by it, but I still kind of enjoyed some of the platforming in the earlier levels.
Okay.
This may be our new floor.
It is for me, I think. Yeah. Right? That zero's gonna do some damage.
The zero hurts. The zero hurts a lot. I cannot remember what. Listeners, please at me. I can't remember what Mythology Sub-Zero was.
Let's see. I have all my show notes here. I think I gave Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero 2 in gameplay, 5 in narrative, 4 in visuals, 5 in sound, and 1 in fun factor. So yeah,
what we have here, for you is 4, 2, 4, 0, and a 1.5. So we ended up walking out with a 27.6.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
It's not good.
Well deserved. Stay far away. Keep your if you are a Christian and you have Christian children and you're thinking, I'm looking for like a way to do some outreach. Like already your NES, no. Probably something more recent but just don't even consider this. This is going to drive them far away from the arms of Jesus. Speaking of, so based on this experience, you sourcing Jesus?
Man, I haven't sourced Jesus since I was 6 years old, so I'm not planning on it anytime soon. But I do have a question for you. So, Bible Adventures was the idea of bringing the Bible to the nerds, right? Like, hey, let's video gamify what.
Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah, let's video gamify some biblical tales that will pull people in. This did it bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just between the two of us, do you have 1 or 2 ideas of a Bible story that would translate well to a video game? And what would it be? Like, I have one.
Go ahead and start us off.
I'll start us off, and then you give me one, and we'll go back and forth. Just for 1 or 2. The Trials of Job.
Okay, and what's the mechanic? What do
you are Job.
I'm glad it's that and not a torture simulator from God's perspective.
Yeah, right. You have you start off kind of RPG style. You have constitution, charisma, wisdom, intelligence, so on and so forth. Like, you have your scores, and you basically have to go through and complete tasks and make saves to keep yourself out of the devil's grasp.
And just watch your stats steadily decrease. It's like the inverse RPG. You just lose everything.
You slowly lose your stats as you
Yeah.
You constantly try to do things to raise your stats.
Okay.
It's like a subversive sim.
Yeah. I mean, there might be something to that, right? Like you're required as a player. It would be so unrewarding, maybe frustrating as a player experience, but it's like an interesting idea to like, usually in games you are gaining abilities, skill trees, going through a skill tree, right? Like finding power-ups or whatever to aid you in your quest. And this would be one like, we're going to steadily pull things away from you and you have to fill the gap with your own skill.
Right.
Okay. I mean, the obvious is like to do something as Jesus, just because the powers, right? The inherent powers of
like an RPG is Jesus. An RPG Jesus.
I mean, I don't even know what we'd have him doing, but just like think about what the things at his disposal. First of all, if you are low on health, you can just like spawn fish. You know what I mean?
You automatically increase your charisma score if you turn water into wine.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or if you're trying to get past, like if we're doing ImSim stuff, you know, you could just get the guards drunk, you know? They don't even realize they're drinking wine. They're just like sipping on water until they pass out, you know? Think of the things you could do. I was thinking just like in terms of powers, right? You're walking on water, you know? Yeah, there's something there. I don't know what we'd be doing as Jesus, though. We'd have to like embellish. I mean, we could be talking about like the sort of gaps in what we're told about his life. Maybe he got into some rumbles somewhere. We have some action happening, you know?
Christopher Moore talks about that a lot in his wonderful biblical satire.
Or we could like I don't know, play through one of his parables. Here we go. We got a camel and we're trying to guide it through the eye of a needle. We've got like a series of needle rings. It's like flying through rings. It's Superman 64.
No, it's like you're a camel. It's like Portal. You have to solve all of the Jesus puzzles.
Oh my God! That is a funny idea, though.
You have a camel and the eye of a needle, and you have to figure out how to get the camel through the eye of the needle.
Oh man! And it's like a long sort of like mentally challenging experience, and at the end of it, you just on screen. It's you know how hard that was. Well, it's harder for a rich guy to get into heaven.
Exactly.
And it's just like the ultimate teaching tool. Now we got it. Hey, trademarked.
Yeah. TM.
All right, what you got? What's next? We kind of shared that one. You got something ready to go, though? Something in your quiver?
So I had one. I'm not entirely certain how much I like it yet. Okay, so I like the Noah's Ark theme that Wisdom Tree did. But let's go full Stardew Valley.
Okay.
You have a giant fucking boat full of 2 of every animal. You've got you, Noah, your wife, your family, your sons and their wives, and you can assign them to different areas of the boats.
Oh, okay.
Your job is to keep all of the animals alive and from murdering each other.
Mm-hmm.
Every day is 10 minutes real time. And you have to make sure everything gets fed and watered and taken care of in that time.
That's nice. I'm imagining like a Dino Park Tycoon kind of thing, but like from the side, almost like the Sim Tower perspective. Have you ever played Sim Tower?
Yes, I have. So I had a second one, and this will be my last one. Sim Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh, we were going different routes there. I was about to say, are you thinking of Sim Tower of Babel? You got the darker pick. Okay.
I did.
Tell me more. I mean, mine, even when you win, you get to the heaven and then God just destroys your shit and then game over.
Can you make it so Sodom and Gomorrah are not smote?
Okay. So what are you doing?
I have no idea, man.
Is this like an RTS where you're trying to like, I don't know, corral your
I think it's an RTS.
Murderers and rapists. Okay. You're just like controlling the...
You play the chief magistrate of each city.
So you're fighting off the angels?
No, I think you're trying to fight off I think you're trying... Oh, God, maybe you're a vigilante in one of the... Oh, my God, I have it. It's the new City of Heroes.
Yeah.
But it's City of Heroes, Gomorrah. and you are a biblical superhero, and it is your job to take out all of the villains of Gomorrah so that it doesn't get smote by the Lord. Smited.
So basically you just kill everybody in town, right? You just like...
I don't know how bad things were.
Well, God seemed to think they were pretty bad.
Well, he also said, hey, let's flood the whole fucking planet. I'm sure there were a couple of babies that were 5.
No, they were the offspring of the wicked. They had to go too. You have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't you know that phrase? You always throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You always throw the
flood water.
You always throw the baby out with the flood water.
All right.
Man, we are alienating so many people.
I didn't really have them. I just immediately, Sim Tower, was thinking, oh, Tower of Babel, there's another tower. Like, you manage the Tower of Babel, you get it higher and higher and higher, and then we do a spin on it, you win if you get to God. But he's trying to smite you. He's trying to tear it down the whole time, so you have, like, natural disasters knocking at the supports of your tower, and you have to, like, maybe fix those and repair stuff. And
as soon as the tower's tall enough for you to spit in the face of God, he gives you a thumbs up and says, hey, good job. Game over.
Game over. Enjoy hell.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the other idea I had. Oh, is it your turn?
No, I after my last one, I don't think I should talk anymore.
We're not going to pivot from podcasters to game designers, huh?
No, apparently not.
I don't really have anything. You just said that, and I'm just like, what are my favorite biblical stories or characters? I'm a big fan of Judith. Do you know Judith? The book of one and the same of the book.
Yeah.
She basically, like, her town is being sieged by the Assyrians, and the menfolk aren't doing their duty.
Of course we aren't. Yeah, sure.
Sounds like us. So they got, like, the enemy encampment, and she decides she's going to take matters into her own hand and sort of gets into that camp, like, ingratiates herself to the general, Holofernes, and kind of, gives out the vibes like, you know what I'm here for, right? And gets him really drunk, and then cuts off his head and escapes. And it's just a cool, badass character, cool, badass story.
So maybe like Thief the Judith story?
Well, yeah, see, I thought, like, you have an opportunity. So, like, this Bible Adventures is 3 games in 1. What if the initial part of the game is, like, almost like an MSim style, like, you are interacting with different characters. You're trying to get your way into the camp, but maybe you have different ways to get into the camp. Maybe you, like, take a stealthy approach. You're looking for, like, you know what I mean? Like, weak areas in the fencing, or maybe you have high charisma and you're just going to go up there to the front guard and persuade him. And then you have to, like, maybe get a disguise once you're inside the camp. I don't know. It's taking some liberties with the source material, but I mean, that it didn't stop Wisdom Tree.
We do that all the time.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you actually have to get to Holofernes, right? And you have to convince him of what you're there for, that you're not there to fucking cut off his head, And then, I don't know, do you have, like, a head, like, do you have a decapitation mini game? That's kind of gory and brutal, but that's the source material. That's the thing about the Bible, right? It's so grisly and nasty. Some of these stories.
What if you were just a tax collector, and then you get stuck in a tree?
I'm going to need to hear more, but already I'm thinking maybe there's still more fun to be had than Noah's Ark and the rest.
I was going to say, that did happen, right? That happened in the Bible?
You got to wait for it. You just need a firefighter to come with the ladder and get you down. You're up there with the cat.
A tax collector and a kitten and a firefighter all in a tree.
That sounds like the beginning to a joke.
A tax collector did get stuck in a tree in the Bible, though, right?
What is that one? Zacchaeus?
Zacharias.
Our boy Zach?
Yeah, our big tax collector boy Zach.
Right. Zach, he wanted to see Jesus, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't see him. He was too short.
So he got stuck in a tree and he was a tax collector.
Now, do you play the ascent to the tree, or do you just start off like
you
get a prologue
start
and you're just
off
in the
collecting
tree?
taxes. You start off collecting taxes.
Yeah, and that levels you up, and then you get strong enough to climb the tree.
Yeah, and then
By,
finally you get to where
other...
Jesus is, and you have to find the right tree that you can climb.
And then it becomes Where's Waldo, and you have to find Jesus in the crowd.
Yes,
you gotta pick him out.
I love this.
All right, we got so many. You know, I wonder if Wisdom Tree has like is that name up for grabs because the company went under, didn't they?
Hey,
they
Square Enix, your boys, come at us. We're right here.
All good ideas. All ideas.
All ideas.
But all better ideas. Yeah, there are certainly ideas.
Other ideas that we have are maybe you should talk to us on our social media accounts.
Yeah, we're done. Let's get out of here. Fuck this.
Oh, fuck. God, you can contact us at our email, which is where we would love to hear from you, at sourcenotfoundpod@gmail.com. We're also on the Instagrams and the Facebooks at the same name. And, you know, if you want to support us fiscally in any way, shape, or form, our Patreon, Source Not Found Podcast. Check us out. Starting February, we'll be doing Patreon patron-specific or exclusive episodes once a month. So maybe you'd like to check those out. Brandon, what are you doing on Twitch, my man?
You referred to me as a scholar at the beginning of this episode.
As I will always.
You should never. But if I am to be a scholar in something, it seems that I'm gunning for becoming a scholar of shitty games because so this month is Jankuary. It's a self-imposed punishment. I don't know why I decided to do this, but just sometimes a lot of my decisions in life are guided by puns and wordplay. So Jankuary, a month-long exploration of janky games. We just we just finished Superman 64. Yes, we will be discussing that game on this show at some point because I finished it. I don't have to play it, but I'm gonna make you play it. We're gonna find, and hopefully our friendship can withstand it because oh my god, to inflict that on it's like the Ring. I played it and now I have to make someone else play it within 7 days or I die. And Superman or Lex Luthor comes out of my TV and drags me he drags me like through a wall. We clip through a wall and we're just stuck there for all eternity.
Cool.
Maybe the worst game I've ever played. If you thought Bible Adventures was bad, well, fuck me. So yeah, we did that. We started off with a real doozy, but just every 5 followers that I get on my Twitch channel, we unlock the next game on the menu. There are some real winners on the way. So come by and see what's next. And speaking of playthroughs, we have just launched our YouTube channel. So you know the deal, youtube.com, but on the back end of that, at Source Not Found Pod, you can start going there. We're going to archive. We have archived all of our episodes thus far, and we'll continue to do so if you want to listen on that platform. And anytime from here on out, we're playing a game on the show. If I decide to stream it, which I intend on doing for all of them in the foreseeable future, I'm going to just post the long playthroughs on there so you can enjoy the full playthrough of, right now we've got Castlevania 64 there already, Bible Adventures. I'll probably do some abridged versions of upcoming games as well. We do have a sort of a greatest hits, shall we say, of the Friday the 13th experience on there as well. I did not stream Sub-Zero.
Good.
Didn't think to do that at the time. Yeah, that's not there. That'll never be there. I'll never play it again. Don't ask for it. And yeah, so come on by the YouTube. Hope to see you there.
And Patreon-wise, we have a new player has joined the shout-out tier. 13th Horseman has joined in.
Welcome. So glad to have you.
Welcome. Hello, friend. Has joined in with
Jacob Spindell, Susie Daggs, and Frederick Vivor. We got a party going here, folks. Come on in.
Friendship.
And gang, it's a new year, it's a new you, it's a new me, it's a new us. It's a new Source Not Found, but it's not that new because you should still check your toilets for Freddy Krueger and watch out for those white vans with clowns in them.
Stay sinning.